So, Vicky, you've been learning German alongside your children. And what has that taught you about patience and humility?
Probably that I don't have any. No.
Welcome back. This is Laura Craig with Alter Eagle, part 2 with Kristin and Vicky. I'm just as excited about this part as I was about the first part. And I've been thinking about learning German ever since. YOLO. All right, I'm just going to go ahead and get into this. Let's go.
Well, I love also that Kristin knows German or knew German.
I did.
I like how you say did.
Wir können sprechen Deutsch. But I mean, in the beginning with the baby, like when they were young, oh my God, when we first got here and I was on the train and somebody helped me with the stroller, I was like, oh, gracias. I'm like, why did I speak Spanish? Like, I didn't.
That's just what came out, right?
My brain is just like, just speak something else. Maybe they won't notice. So,
how do you say thank you in German?
Danke.
Danke?
Danke. Danke.
Okay.
And if you want to look at a list later, there are many similarities between English and German.
Okay. Good to know.
It's, oh my gosh, it's crazy. There's days where I'm so proud to be doing this, especially at this age, right?
Mm-hmm.
When you're little, your brain is a sponge, and now it's basically cement. I think it's incredible. I think it's incredible to do this with my kids together. It's like a fun kind of, right now I'm not working full time. So my job primarily is in the home. And so I'm kind of the translator. I'm helping the kids with their homework. I can help them on a level my husband can't. He's learning, but just he doesn't have the time. And so it's incredible. And to also see the advancements throughout the years, because for the first 3 years, we thought we were going back.
Mm-hmm.
So I was teaching an English club and I was supposed to be speaking English to little preschoolers. So I wasn't really absorbing too much at the time.
Okay.
And then we were like, oh, well, the little one, we don't have to worry about the little one. He's going to be 3 when we move back. It's all going to be fine. And now he's the only one that's truly bilingual because he speaks the High German, the local dialect, Swiss German, and English, and flips it on and off like this. Because it was one of the first, he still doesn't know some words in English. And the older one kept asking me, why do I need to do this? English is the world language, mommy. I said, oh, buddy, you grow where you're planted, man. We are going to learn German and that's it.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's been, but then there's times where I am so overwhelmed by it and frustrated because you think you're doing a good job and then something happens and you can't read it, or somebody calls and you have no idea what they're saying. And you're like, oh, I thought I was doing such a good job and now I feel just like I just moved here. Or if somebody speaks English with me right away, I'm like, hello, I've been living here for 7.5 years. Like, come on. So
yeah,
but it's amazing. And also I'm a speech and language therapist, right? So I'm already fascinated by language.
Yeah, and I wanted to get into your background because when we were going over the questions, and I kind of worded some things. So your background includes working with dyslexia, speech impairments, and learning disabilities, and then assisting in autism diagnoses for both adults and children. Similar to what you did in the States, right? And as you said, you're not working full time right now. I'd be interested to know, so what differences, if any, if you can in this moment think, have you observed in diagnostic practices or support systems where you are currently? Is there like a huge difference from the States?
I mean, it's a little bit different. Honestly, the work feels the same because I did work in some pretty big cities, so there were multiple languages around me, and you always need to approach with respect, no matter what language you're given as the mother language. Here, it's very interesting because you don't have the. I work for a foundation, and they were just pretty open, and they just kind of trusted you a bit more to do like what you would like.
Mm-hmm.
So that was kind of nice. It felt a little freeing, but the work was more or less the same. Except in the States, I was not helping to diagnose adults with autism. It was only children. So here, people come seeking a diagnosis because they're having questions about themselves. And so they come kind of seeking answers.
Mm-hmm.
Where I that was the first time I have experienced that. Maybe they do it in America also. I haven't lived there in a long time, so maybe that is done.
Working across cultures obviously has changed how you approach children and families. You know, we're talking about the language barrier. You mentioned something about there are different. I noticed when I was there, certain people were speaking German, but it wasn't fully German. It was almost like a hybrid of like, was it like German and Italian or something? It was very interesting hearing. And the one girl was English and this guy was from South Tyrol. Or it's just interesting to me that is that a thing? Can you both like talk about that with language there? Is there like hybrids of German?
Yeah. It's there's the High German, which is like the academic German
Okay.
that
Yeah.
the kids learn in school. And then that you'll read in books. If you get a German book, it's High German.
Okay.
But then in Switzerland, each kind of canton or major city has its kind of own special dialect, and they call it Swiss German.
Mm.
So somebody who grows up in Zurich will have this kind of special little dialect that they learned in kindergarten, and they probably speak with their children and use on the playground. But then when you take a test or if you're in school, you do the High German. So everyone in the country, well, in this area, because there's French, Italian, German, in the German speaking parts, it's all High German at school. But as a child at home and on the playground, if you grow up here, your dialect could be different depending on where you were born.
Mm. Like New York or Boston, right?
Honestly, it's very similar
Yeah.
to America and the dialects
I mean, the
of
sound, yeah. And even like Louisiana. Have you ever met someone from Louisiana, from like New Orleans? I'm not saying it correctly, but I worked with this girl in New York, and she was from New Orleans, but she didn't have a dialect. And her family came to town. Her father spoke, and I was like, I'm really trying to focus on, and it's to your point earlier, not focusing on like the dialect and that it's different, but really listening to the person and trying to just hear what they're saying because they are communicating with me. I love that point. You made that point early on that sometimes people focus so much on that it sounds different, but they're speaking to us. And I have a lot of respect for people who move here from other countries and know English, right? And even if it's, they're really, really trying and they're really, really working. And same for you. It was a surprise for a lot of people that here's this American learning German. You had stated that on our last call, that you've had people be surprised by the fact that you're learning German and you're integrating into the culture. And you're like, well, yes, this is where I live. This is where my family is. This is where my children are. And it's just such a really powerful lesson that to really just listen and just pay attention to someone and get past the difference, right, in their voice, essentially. But
really?
her father, I'll tell you what, I was trying and I couldn't. And I would just smile and go, yeah. And I looked at my friend, I was like, I'm so sorry. I was like, I don't know. Did I just agree to something that like I shouldn't have? I don't know. I feel really bad, but I couldn't. So it's just, being exposed to that, I don't know. I have so much respect for both of you for just like immersing yourselves. Going back, I want to go back to Egypt. Kristin.
Okay.
Talking about the museums and these places, they're shaping like a nation's identity, truly. This is something that will end up in history books, right? And you're a part of that. That's huge. So you have Egypt, the V&A, a science museum. So that sense of responsibility for the work. Mm-hmm. How do you describe that? How you feel every time that you've had these experiences? And let's maybe just talk about the Egypt specifically.
Yeah, I mean, so the Grand Egyptian Museum, yeah, I mean, really what a privilege to be a part of what is an absolutely enormous team of contributors that have worked on that project over the 20 plus years that it was going. But I remember early conversations about, it's not just about being the largest museum, actually, maybe in the world. I don't know. Maybe some Shenzhen museums in China are bigger, but it's a big museum. But I think the Grand Egyptian Museum was really about a country reclaiming its authority over its own history and heritage, because so much of, I mean, there is so much evidence of ancient Egypt. There's so many artifacts, and they're all around the world. And really, some of the best artifacts they're not in Egypt anymore. And I just remember there was this real sense of sort of reclaiming that, being the world center for ancient Egypt, which was really exciting to be a part of. And the conservation center that they built, you know, it is absolutely world class. And the work that they're doing there is really, I guess, unparalleled, really, in terms of the material that they're working to conserve. And sort of comparing that to, say, the Science Museum, where I was at for 10 years in London, that was also really interesting because, you know, science museums and natural history museums, they're often a child's first museum experience, usually because you want to go look at the animals or in the dinosaurs, or you maybe want to go play. You know, you want to do something. And in particular, those kinds of experiences, you know, you'll come back often as a child. As a parent, you're bringing your kid there often, but then the grandparent is coming too, and then the child grows up and they bring their kids, and then their grandparents and they bring their grandkids, and it's this really intergenerational relationship, which is something I think very special and quite precious for museums to recognize and respect. And I think at the Science Museum, what I liked so much about it, my background's not science. I was never the person in the room who knew what we were talking about. But I liked that what we were really trying to do was be open for everyone. And, you know, science isn't just about lab coats. There's many ways to participate in science. And a lot of what they did there was to try and tell more people's stories, because hearing people's stories is a really easy way into finding a connection. It's easier to make your way into like nuclear physics through a person talking about what they did as a child, than it is to like start with the object that is like a piece of metal, and you're like, what do I do with this? But so I think it was, you know, it was really so much about how do you try and inspire the next generation of, you know, scientists and engineers, and that not everyone's going to respond in the same way, and not everyone learns in the same way. So I think the Science Museum was really good about trying to understand more about how people learn and what they're interested in, and try and tell stories in a variety of ways. And I take a lot of that experience with me now into my new role, because I think we saw that it brought different people into the museum. So there's something about it that works.
I do love how I was at the Carnegie Museum not too long ago, and they have the exhibit where the dinosaurs are, where the kids can go and actually like, you know, dig for fossils and all that. And that a lot of people are tactile, you know, they have to do things physically with their hands in order to learn and understand and see. And that was one thing that really stood out to me. And I thought, man, I wish I had been able to come here as a kid, but the lesson is just recognizing those things and bringing those things. You know, we're talking about different cultures, you know, you're creating something that will outlive you by generations. I don't know if you ever think of it that way, but it's the same with Vicky. I mean, Vicky created humans, so two of them. And maybe that's a weird way to say that, but you did. I mean, I'm fascinated. When people have kids, I'm like, what was that like? Like,
it's easy to make. Hey, but
it's fun and easy.
Maybe edit that
Sorry.
But I did want to say this to your point, Kristin. And also, which I think you're the best auntie probably ever. You like literally make it to their birthdays from across the world. You're such a good auntie. But also regarding children and everything too, and from the museum aspect. So with the tactile objects and activities, But what I noticed over here that I thought was nice, and you'll have to tell me if they also have this in America, in different places. But when we go hiking, now everyone says, "Oh, your children must love hiking. I see your pictures." And I'm like, yeah, I mean, they no, they don't love hiking. We make them go outside, throw gummies bears at them to get them up the hill. But there's a mother that I follow. It's called Swiss Family Fun. And what this woman does is she goes through and tells you details of which hikes to go on, because these particular ones have halfway through there's a water thing, and halfway through there's bells, and there's a witch, or this cow thing, or they tell stories. You walk a couple half a kilometer, and there's something here, and then another half a kilometer, and there's something in the forest to play with. And so that literally, because they understand, kids really need that to learn at a museum, or to go outside and play for a 3-hour hike. No child is going to volunteer to walk for 3 hours. Maybe some do. That's amazing. That's not my kids. But in the end, it ends up being a beautiful day. But the tactile, really, I notice here, maybe in Colorado they have some. I noticed that as well.
For children.
For children, like for all of that.
Yeah. Well, it is interesting. And I had Kristin, I'm just making faces over here because sometimes I'm like, words, Laura, say the words that you want to say. Do you see parallels between helping individuals find their voices and helping nations tell their stories? I imagine, because I pulled up the Grand Egyptian Museum website. My head is like, what? Yeah. That is pretty cool. So, but you're an architect. So specifically what you do, but how much of because you said you're not a science person, right? So how much of the actual getting into the history of things, do you have to do when you're doing it? Because I'm looking at this, I'm like, oh yeah, that looks like a museum that would be in Egypt as I'm looking at it, right? So if I'm making any sense, I'm going to let you talk now, and I'm going to stop babbling. Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of levels to that.
Yes.
I mean, like architecturally, if I think about it, the building needs to exist in a place, and the place has a context, and it has a scale, and it has weather, and it has wind, and it has circulation, and how do you get in and out of it? And that depends a lot on, that's about location. And that's interesting because, of course, as an architect, you're thinking about what kind of statement you're trying to make, how are you contributing to the area. For the Grand Egyptian Museum, that was the architectural idea was a really simple one. It was sort of build the monument that the pharaohs never got to. And if you look at Google Earth, the plan is also really simple. There was a roundabout, like a traffic, a roundabout.
Traffic circle, yeah.
Kind of thing, like a junction.
Big Ben Parliament.
From the midpoint of that out to the tops of the 3 pyramids, they sort of started drawing some lines, and that became the zone within which the building was built. And then I always described the building as a hand, or the galleries as a hand, because there were 3 galleries that introduced the history of each of the kingdoms in ancient Egypt, from the Old Kingdom down to the New Kingdom in the Greco-Roman period. And then there were 2 fingers. It's hard for me to separate that way. That was Tutankhamun. And Tutankhamun is so unique because actually, as we all know, that's like the boy king. And they found all of these burial goods because the tomb had been undisturbed. But he was kind of an insignificant pharaoh. So if you imagine what we found there, and then you have like the big hitters like Ramses, imagine what his tomb was filled with, So there's something about the power of seeing that one tomb in its entirety, and then reflecting back on all of ancient Egypt and all of these other pharaohs. And my job at the time was working with the architects. They came up with the building plan. And my studio that I was working at, Metaphor and Cultural Innovations, we worked together to help develop the story and try and tell the story in space, and try and figure out how the actual artifacts that represent those periods of time could be arranged in such a way that it worked in harmony with the architecture. The building is so big, it's like 5 football fields, like 5 soccer fields.
It looks gigantic,
3
yes.
galleries. And there you have to think about city planning. Like, what do you see at the end of the street? Why am I going to walk there? I need something at the end that I'm walking towards. And so it was, it was different scales. It was laying out a story in space. There were actual objects. There was a list of objects for each gallery. So then you have to also do space plan. Oh, we're building a temple in this gallery. Okay, how big's the temple? And that building is so big that the temple looks small when you actually get there.
Wow.
So it's sort of many layered, but I think that's why I like, as an architect, being in museums, because the storytelling is actually the important part. And then it's like you're creating a 3-dimensional story that you walk through, and you're building the world that would have otherwise been written on the page. And I think that is it's a fun thing to be a part of. And you work with experts in all areas. So I'm never no one ever asks me to be the expert on the content. I've got beautiful, wonderful curators who do that work.
It's really amazing to me, and I'm looking at the map, because it's Giza. It's
it's in Giza on the plateau.
Yeah, just plateau. Sorry, I was always obsessed with plateaus in school. I know that's such a weird thing to say, but I was like, ooh, this is so cool. Like, I'm sorry, I'm very strange at moments, but I'm looking here at wow, the international airport is called Sphinx International Airport.
I didn't do that.
I mean, that's what it's saying on this Google map. As I panned out, because I was looking for Cairo, that's where I wanted to see, but then there's also the Cairo International Airport, but that's across is that a river? Yeah. Anyways,
that's the Nile.
I was gonna say that's the Nile River.
Yeah.
It's weird looking at it. Was it kind of like, did you have that moment where you're like, this is the Nile River? Like, I remember learning about this.
Every time.
Yeah, it just has to be. And how much did you do any of the travel tourist sort of pilgrim thing before you started getting into the work there? Like, when you go to a different place, you were in London, is there any of that kind of happens to sort of inspire you for things? Or is it just very much like, because like you said, you're not the only one, right? You weren't the only person doing this. There's a lot of people involved.
Yeah. I mean, I guess whenever I've worked on projects that weren't where I'm residing, there's always a bit of discovery, which is important to do. And often you'll do that with your local partners or whoever your client is. They'll help try and introduce for you some of the unique qualities of the place. I mean, something that I remember from Egypt is that families like to travel around together. They like to spend their day together. And that means it's a larger group of people moving around at once, which means circulation, spaces and corridors and places to pause need to just be bigger, because you just want to accommodate for a comfortable visit with a larger group of people in one go. And quite different from that, something that's really important that I've noticed in Scandinavia here is light, natural light. You will notice that my background has gotten darker and darker as we've talked, because it's now completely dark out at 4:30. So natural
Oh,
light
wow.
becomes actually a main character in Scandinavian buildings. And
Oh,
the way they
interesting.
bring light into the building is really important. And it becomes a really important quality, even in my apartment, looking for an apartment, it was very much about which direction is it facing and what kind of light will I get into the space. So there are these elements that are just really unique to the place, that and how people sort of naturally are as social
Yes.
beings, that have to be accommodated within the thinking for how you design for a museum.
Well, ladies, I mean, we're rocking here. I think we're gonna things that I didn't get to touch on was really just your friendship. We've talked about it. We've dabbled in it a bit, but you've survived missed trains, canceled trips, and pandemics and illnesses, and you both individually are very grounded. That has a lot to do with it. But what keeps it grounded? How often do you both communicate? I mean, are you communicating on a daily basis, or is it just weekly?
It's a bit random, isn't it?
It goes in I love now that there's this comfort. There's now for me at least I hope it's mutual. There's a comfort that if I'm just send a random message about something, she'll get it and just know what it means, or like she, or just, hey, good morning, or, or if I don't know, it's just, it's not anymore this like, hello, Kristin, I hope you've had a nice week. I was thinking this, and not that it was fake, it was just not as deep, I guess. Well,
Mm.
it's superficial, yeah, by definition. And so as we kind of visited more, and then you start creating funny memories, obviously, because you have experience together now. It's random. I always think about you on the holidays. And I think part of that too is because sometimes you're not with your family and I'm
Mm-hmm.
not with mine. And so there's kind of this like kind of little connection there, like, hey, we're both really far away from our families right now. I'm gonna see what Kristen's doing, or I don't know. It ebbs and flows.
I yeah, I like that. I think we have an ongoing conversation now. And sometimes there are longer pauses than other times,
That makes
but
sense. Yeah.
it feels like we don't have to start fresh each time. We just kind of keep the ball rolling, which I also really enjoy.
But I'll tell you what though, this for me was super cool because from the beginning, and I don't know how we are on time, but
This is a
we
two-parter at this point, so let's just
oh okay.
continue talking.
Okay.
I looked at the board. I was like, oh, okay, yeah, yeah.
Okay,
It's
we
great.
had
I love it.
actually
We
we
can
had a
keep
lot of
talking.
fun going through our timeline of like, wait, let me search through my old messages, and oh my God, Kristin, this is from November 2018, and she was holding my baby, and then last summer in Maine, he was like reading a book to her and jumping around, and it was like she has literally seen more of my family than my mother has. It's like um she's literally watched my kids grow up. She's literally watched me become European. And it's so cool because she was the only one I knew that moved abroad. I guess Aaron Miller lived in London for a little bit, but we're not like besties. And so our first time, I'd never been to London, and going to visit Kristin was my first time. So I went as a tourist. Of course, there's pictures of me with a Sherlock Holmes hat on, and I had to ride in the black taxi. But like,
Did you ride at the double decker?
of course,
Yeah.
I
Okay.
had to buy another sweatshirt because and almost got hit by a car because they went the other way.
Oh my
They were on
gosh.
the other side of the road. And so it was just this whole kind of thing where here I was almost 40 years old, and I felt like a child seeing London for the first time. She lived there, so we were able to play tourist, but then also I stayed in her home. She lived there, so I got to see it through her eyes as a local. And then I just saw her last year in Aarhus, and we met in where was it? In Copenhagen. Kristin, I've never been to
Mm.
Copenhagen. Okay, let's go. And during that time, you wanted to move to Denmark. So I literally got to watch you go from London talk about wanting to move to Denmark, then seeing you and thriving in Denmark and passing your language exams. And I just feel so honored that at this stage in my life, at our life, that I literally got to see a piece of you like progress and excel in little bits along the way. And that was super amazing. And I am still sad that you lost your British accent.
Me too.
Oh my gosh. I was just going to say, you do have a bit of an accent though.
It used to be more.
Really?
It's very Madonna.
Oh, you're totally giving Madonna. I love it. I love it. And your hair is just fabulous. I mean, can we please the hair and the glasses?
Just enhanced the color the other day.
But like the curls, and it's just, it's
oh my God.
It's great. I love it. I love it.
Am I blushing because I feel
it's not coming through on my end, so you're good. But no, I love thinking about, friendships when you're a kid and now as adults and how there are those friendships. And I love what you said, how you have an ongoing conversation. And immediately I got what that meant, where you don't have to do the whole, hey, I hope you're having a good day today thing. You can just send a text and be like, did you see this article? Or whatever it is. I have a girlfriend who I've met actually through the podcast. I interviewed her and just instantly we just like clicked. Went to Butler, but she's also like 10 years younger than me. So that's another thing that's interesting for me is I have friends that are literally in these age categories where they're either like 10 years older than me, 10 years younger than me, or even like 15 years younger than me. With theater, I'm doing stuff with people. But I just love that. It really kind of struck me. And I do think because you both have this curiosity for life and learning things and exploring, that also is what probably bonds you as well, would you say?
I think, yeah, definitely. And I think I feel so happy to have you as a friend.
Aww.
I mean, there's something.
How sweet is that?
There's something really about like if we hadn't sort of reconnected. Well, we reconnected, but if we hadn't bonded, I think I'd always feel a little sad about knowing that there was somebody that I had so much sort of shared history with, living so close, but that we didn't have anything. I think I would have felt a loss there. So I'm just so happy that we have bonded, and also that I've gotten to know your family. And it, like, really, I love getting to know Alex. I mean, really, this summer it felt like I got to spend some quality time with him and and the kids. It's so fun. It's so fun, especially to hear your youngest son speak, because he really does switch back and forth between, and he can make sounds come out of his mouth that I don't know how you form that sound.
You said he's 7, your youngest?
Mm-hmm.
But it means a lot, I think, to have. It's like having a bit of a sounding board as well as we navigate going forward.
Mm-hmm.
What we're doing, how long are we staying, weird challenges, both of us taking language classes, having to study for tests all these years later, celebrating, passing, all of those things. It's just really nice to have somebody to share that with.
Did either of you ever go through an experience where people back home would ask, when are you moving home? Did you ever get that?
It stopped now. But
I would hope so at this point. I would hope that it has stopped. But immediately it popped in my head where I was like, I used to get that. If I was going through a hard time, to your point, Vicky, I remember when I first moved to LA. Do you guys believe in like signs?
Yeah.
So when I first started working for SoulCycle, there was this instructor, and I didn't get to know her very well. We were about a month into training, and it was over Christmas. Actually, it was Christmas Eve. She was young. I mean, I think she was a little bit younger than me at that point, and I was 30. I was already in my 30s. Yeah, I was already in my 30s. I think I just turned 31, and she passed away on Christmas Eve, and she was 23, just died in her sleep. They still don't know. And I remember she had made such a huge impact on me. And there was one class in particular where I was like crying what she was saying. I was crying, and it just felt very therapeutic. And so I was always in her class. Every time I could get to her class, it was like every day I was taking her class. And I started to understand why people were so obsessed with, well, long story short, when I moved to LA, I left all my stuff, and I was going to fly back a month later and move my stuff in a truck. But I had to get out there to start teaching because they were opening a studio. And I got there, and I was sitting in this house where they had put me up in. And my roommates were amazing. These women were they were so welcoming. And I'm sitting there, and I was just going through such a rough time with breaking my lease back in New York and trying to figure out when I was coming and who's coming with me to drive this U-Haul cross country. And I was just sort of feeling like, I don't know if this is the right place. And I had sent her a Facebook request before she passed away, like days before, and she never accepted it. And while I was sitting there on this bed, and I remember pink was her thing. She had pink hair, and the sky was really pink. The sunset was really pink that day. And I was sitting at this window, and I looked out, and the sky was really pink. And I'm sitting there, I was like, I just don't know if this is where I'm supposed to be. I think I need to just go back to New York. This is way too hard. And my phone dinged. And I swear to you, I looked down at my phone, and it said, Claire Veronica Walsh just accepted your friend request. And I literally dropped my phone. Now, here's the thing. Her mom was managing her Facebook, okay? And I had met her mother, right? Okay, so I'm going to be logical because people who are listening are probably like, all right, she's finally losing it. Like, she's losing it. But it was the exact moment. It was the moment that, and talking about all the struggles you went through, moving there with young children, Vicky, and, Kristin, I know what it's like when you move somewhere alone, right? Mm-hmm. Even if someone helps you, at some point they leave, and then you're there and you're alone. Was there a point, there's that point where you get to where you're like, this has to get better. And do you remember what it was? What that sort of, do either of you remember a moment where you're like, I can do this? Because I feel like there's like a moment where you realize like, no, I can do this. Or we can do this. We've got this. I have, Vicky, we all have support systems, but sometimes when you're still in your own self, your own body, your own mind. But did either of you have something that really made you think like, I got this? Because I do think there is something that happens.
I think there were little like sprinkles along the way that I'm sure through the healing process and being able to run again or things like that. I think, I remember, just finding the first like jar of almond butter that didn't contain peanuts was like, oh, okay, I can do this. Okay. There's no peanuts here, but there's two little stories. One, we moved for 3 months in the city waiting for our stuff to arrive, and we had to find an apartment. Once we moved to the new apartment, that was in like November. That was right around actually, Kristin, when you were here, because we didn't really have a lot, and like a little Charlie Brown Christmas tree, the whole thing. It was the first time when I was walking the boys, we didn't have a car, walking the boys to their preschool, and it was the first time I saw the Alps. It was the first time, because it's cloudy. It's Switzerland's gorgeous. It's beautiful, but it's cloudy a lot in November till January. It's still like up north. So the first time that I saw the clouds away, and I literally just stopped, probably similar to your photo story. I just stopped, and I just tears came down, and I felt like, oh my God, like I'm gonna be okay. These boys are gonna be awesome. Like this is really gonna happen. And it was this beautiful like moment of like, I saw the Alps with like snow on them, and I was like, oh my God, I didn't know that they were there the whole time because it was so gray. It was so gray. And I was like, I called Alex. I'm like, Alex, like I see the Alps. He's like, yes, sweetie, we're in Sweden. No, like I really saw. And then I got a job. The second little bit was I got a job teaching English at this, Swiss preschool, which was we could have a separate podcast on that. But it was a very sense of like, oh my God, this is so different than it was before. I feel like I'm not successful. I feel like nobody likes me here. I'm twice the age of all the teachers here, and nobody's speaking English except me. And I'm like, oh my God, like, oh, this is just really strange. And then it was my birthday. And the cook that always, didn't really smile too much, but every morning, good morning, guten Morgen, she walked in with a birthday cake and candles. She had learned to sing happy birthday in English.
Oh my
And
gosh.
bring me a cake while I was literally there playing ukulele with my little people, my little Swiss people and students, and I just was like, it was that moment that I'm like, oh my God, I've been accepted. Because the Swiss, in general, they're very happy. They don't really reach out a lot to make friends. I'm not judging, I'm just stating facts. And that was the moment where I was like, okay, I'm in.
Yeah, that's both of those. Exactly what I was trying to get to in my roundabout way that I go off sometimes. But the Alps one, I almost could feel what you were saying. And I love that. It's like this, you were probably like, I live here.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Like, I live here. Like, there's that moment too where you're like, wait, I do live here. I don't have to take a picture because I can see it every day. Oh, that's cool. Thank you. What do you think, Kristin?
I sort of agree in some ways. I think it's an accumulation of moments that begin to paint the picture of like, you're settling, you're figuring it out and you're going to make it. Funny enough, though, I also have a physical experience as well. And for me, it is crossing bridges over, like in London, every time I cross the bridge over the Thames, this feeling came over me of like, oh, this is my life. And here in Aarhus, I live very close to the water. It's on the coast. And so I guess for me, there's something about water and a city that gives me this sort of very energizing feeling.
Are you a Pisces?
Sorry?
Are you a Pisces?
No.
No?
I'm Aquarius.
You're Aquarius. Well, that makes sense, I think, doesn't it? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I guess so.
I don't know. I'm not super, but somewhat familiar. And I feel like, yeah, that makes sense. I feel that with the water too.
Yeah. But beyond that, I would say friendships, really, really good friendships. And it doesn't take that many, but like really knowing, like, no, they're here for me. I can call them. I am not alone. That makes all the difference. And I think I should shout out to my parents because they have lived in probably more detail than they would have ever liked to know through pretty much every project and hardship I've ever experienced over here. So I've got to give them a lot of credit for always being supportive and very early on stopping to suggest the answer to the problem would be moving home.
Yeah, there's definitely a point where you're like, okay, I know that you'd love that. Well, and here I am in it. So then you move back, because if you ever did, which I don't see that happening, and I'll be honest, and I'm going to say this on here, I don't know if this is my final landing point. It does I become a bit restless very easily, and I am curious, and living in Europe is something I've kind of always had in the back of my head. So who knows? I don't know what the future holds. I used to set goals, 5-year goals, and then I was like, I'm just going to write it down and say I want to do this someday, and then I'm going to just keep planning my life and doing things and planning things and checking things off the list. But I move home, and then the question is, well, why'd you move back here? Why'd you move back? Why are you here? Why are you here? And at some point you're like, one, how much time do you have? And two, it's just where I'm at right now. I'm never, like we all have sort of feel like we're not trees. And something you said earlier, Vicky, about your son, when you were talking about the language thing, and he had said, well, why do I need to? We're going to go back anyway. And you said, well, you need to, this is where we are right now, and you need to immerse yourself in the culture. You made some, I don't know, it was really good, but I got it on.
It's my friend in San Diego told me this. She was kind of my San Diego mommy. And she said, you grow where you're planted.
Yes, that was it. You grow where you're planted.
That was lovely.
So with all the things that you've done together over the years, who's the planner and who's the let's see what happens? Or are you both one?
I think we take turns with that role.
Okay.
Because I feel, Vicky, like you are very much, we are going to find the exact dates and we're going to book. And we're going to book. This needs to get locked down. And then
I like that.
Nothing happens. Nothing happens, I swear, unless you get the ticket. But it's funny because but Kristin, what I like about you is what's been fun actually in some of this, I'm along for the ride sometimes because I am happy just to see, oh wow, the fire hydrants look different here. Like I get excited about like tiny things. And Kristin, I love because you're like, okay, I would really like to see this museum. And I'm really, you seem to kind of pick out spots, and then we meander kind of in a roundabout way towards the vicinity. And then along the way, we do silly things or eat or whatever.
Yeah. I think we take turns a bit with it.
I like, if we're going to talk about doing something, let's find a date. I kind of like to set a date first, and then that way everything else can kind of fall in line.
Well, and I do think some of that too, I think is also like, I have to make sure my husband's home because I can't do it. Yeah.
You also have other sort of things that you've got to check off. You can't be like, hey, I'm leaving.
Do it anyway. I think I would definitely, because in my mind, you can say someday, but when you have it on the calendar, it's.
Yes.
But what I like about Kristin is like, I literally, what was it? It was somewhere in our chat we found, and I literally texted you and I said, hey, I've never been to Amsterdam. And you're like, okay, let's go. Like, it's more of like, hey, never done this. What do you think?
Yeah. But then also that crazy hot chocolate place where a hand just like comes out of a tiny window.
Wait, what?
Yeah. And so then you like send me these things from Instagram. You're like, can we find this? Done.
That would be me. I have some of those actually. I might have to, when I come over, be like, Kristin, can you help me find this? And will you come? Will you? There's a pastry chef. And I think he's in Paris. I follow him like religiously, these things that he's making, because I bake on the side. So I'm fascinated with, my goal is to perfect a croissant and a gluten-free one. And I love the ones that have like filling, where they're like filling it with, but he will do, his bakery or whatever, there's a window so people can watch him, and then he comes out with samples. People just stand in line and he comes out with like huge samples of what he just made, and he made these like multi-layered dessert. It's unbelievable. And I was like, I need to go there. I love that. Well, if someone listening right now feels maybe stuck, whether that's being in, traveling more or taking a new career or whatever it might be, or afraid to step outside their comfort zone, what would you tell them?
One of the things I've been thinking a little bit about that I've realized has probably served me as I've lived life. It's actually that asking questions is a really good thing, and most of the time it's pretty well received. And I say that because I feel like, I was thinking, you said earlier, Vicky, about perhaps fear can step in the way of curiosity. That you can kind of like, I can get caught up in like, how am I going to look if I don't really know what we're talking about right now, or I don't know what that is, or I've not tried that before, or I don't understand what's happening? Um, and I've realized that the more I push myself beyond that, just to ask a few more questions, the better everything becomes quite quickly. And I feel like that served me both in a sort of personal way, just as I navigate how I'm trying to live my life and living in different cultures, but also at work. I mean, professionally as well. Just there's so much to learn from other people around you. Like, I think it's nice to just ask more questions and be curious to gain a bit more knowledge. So, yeah, there's something like it's kind of a quiet thing almost. It's not like you must be bold, but it's more like, yeah, go ahead and ask the next question because then it will help you reframe or add more information into your thought process about things.
I do have to say, that motherhood has certainly changed that piece of my, not taking it away, not, it has changed it in different ways. So depending on the example, if you would ask me before kids, I would say go for it. Just go for any of it. Just if you have a fear, if the fear comes in, like whitewater rafting, of course there's a fear. I mean, yes, of course.
Yes.
But just educate yourself. Make sure you learn about it. Start at the lowest level. There's different levels. Find a tour, like at least just educate about yourself. And Kristin, like you say, ask the questions. Who cares? Like somebody who was saying this the other day, like oh, it was you. I was watching your podcast. I think it was you, and you said someone told you what someone's opinion about you is not your business.
Yes, I did say that.
Right. I love
And
that I just quoted you on your thing.
thank you. Oh my gosh.
But I think honestly, I would say go for it, but allow yourself. If you feel a little nervous, like let that come in and be like, okay, I'm nervous. Or like if you want a different job or you want this and that, like really ask yourself, okay, why?
Well,
Why do I want this?
think about it, and maybe this is a simple way to think about it, but when we were dancers, right? We would practice a routine. How many times? But every time before you went on stage in front of an audience, you could probably right now physically feel what you felt.
Of course. I felt that today before.
Yes. So, and I feel that too. And I'm constantly reevaluating and going back and thinking things over. But it's the experience. For me, it's even if it doesn't work out, I've told people there's young people right now who have an interest to go out and they want to live in New York. And I'm like, obviously, New York's expensive. I mean, it was expensive when I lived there, but I think even more so now. So I said, well, what do you want me to give you any advice or tips or you just want to talk about the fact that you've always wanted to move to New York? I'm like, you're 23 years old. So if you want to move to New York, you're not married, you don't have kids, it's probably a good time to start planning. Right. My advice to someone, so same thing, right? I was like, ask me questions. I think it's easy sometimes for those of us who have done it, right? When we've lived in all these different places and we've gone through the hardships and it's like, it's going to be hard. You're going to.
Well, and I think that, I think like with Kristin, how she said like her mom, her parents have been a support system or whatever. And I think just, find your people, find your people.
Yes. Find your people.
And I think no matter what it is. And I think, like I said, like as a mother, I now, like when we were planning to go to Albania, I lost a couple of nights of sleep because it's very different. It's not like there's just a car rental company that you just show up at the airport. That doesn't exist. You have to do your research. You have to read reviews. You have to, I have to see if there's peanuts in the culture. Like,
should I wear all beige? Like,
should I wear
exactly? These are important questions.
Like, I mean, should I not wear polka dots? It's
yeah.
Like, so I think it's one of those things where you can always find excuses. And even yes, with children, I feel pretty adventurous with kids still to an extent. We work it out, we sort it out. You just have to plan more. It's less spontaneous. But I just say go for it. And, moving, to San Diego also, I didn't have a place to live. I slept on couches. I slept in a dining room, I think, for a little bit. It's like, be open-minded, and please, I guess that's what it is. Find your people. And
I like that. Be open-minded. Find your
and
people.
just please be open-minded and let yourself cry. Like literally let yourself cry and then be done with it. Be like, okay, you know what? Like when we moved here, when the kids were sleeping or whatever, I started a blog for myself and started telling stories because, of course, everyone was curious about our decision and the kids and everything. I started like a blog and I would just shoot it out to people. And I would just cry a little bit every day. It was probably hormones and everything else after the baby, but like I let myself do it. I didn't say, oh, you're weak. You're not going to, it was like, I'm scared and I'm sad and this is a lot. Okay, I'm going to cry right now. Okay, get over it now. Let yourself find your people, stay open-minded, and cry if you really need to.
Yeah, no, that's perfect. That's literally exactly what I was looking for. Because I think a lot of times people, they get comfortable, right? Everything's working out, everything's good. They don't want to rock the boat. And I'm like, life's going to rock your boat at some point. So I think the more experiences that you have where you're getting out of your comfort zone, even if it's just a tiny bit, it's good. It makes you stronger. It also exposes you to other people and experiences and just life. I'm even more curious now into what you both do and where you live. And I mean, I brought this up early on, but I want people to, Vicky wrote a children's book.
Okay.
And
but wait, it's I co-authored. Let's be real.
She co-authored a children's book, yes, with Lynette Toma.
Lynette Toma, yes.
And your illustrator was Colleen Fisher. And what I love about it, though, is that you took something, from your childhood, like your dance backgrounds and your passion for dance, but then you also took your education and, what you went to school for and what you still continue to, I think you're still vibing in that arena. You're still, even though you're not employed full time, you're still, you're giving sprinkles, colorful sprinkles. Mia is your main character, right? Mia. And I don't know. I just think it's a beautiful story. I want to ask you, I like asking both of you about who you are and what you've done and the impact you're making on the world. And because it's important, you're both very important. And the fact that you're from Butler, that's special. I mean, I think it shows people who are here, someone who maybe is getting ready to graduate high school and go off to college. And kids these days, though, they're pretty relentless. I mean,
You just say kids these days, Laura.
I just said kids these days. I did. We were interviewing this young man the other day for the student sections, the whole sports. They did a whole thing on student sections in Butler County for basketball games. And I remember would have been my junior year and your senior year when we were going to the playoffs to go to Hershey for the state playoffs, but we didn't make it. We lost that last game. And I remember I was going with a bunch of people from the track team to all of these games. And we were so excited, but it made me think of that and how obnoxious we were. I mean, there were so many of us, we wore t-shirts that said, "Let's go Tornadoes." I mean, we spelled out "Let's go Tornadoes." And we were wearing our bright leggings from track, and it was insane. So it was a little nostalgic for me, but we're talking to him and we brought something up. And all of a sudden, Derek goes, "Back in my day," and I go, "We probably sound like your parents." He goes, "Yeah, you do." And I was like, "Oh my gosh." I was like, "You're a senior in high school." I was like, "How dare you?" I was like, but also we're probably your parents' age. He goes, "Yeah, you sound just like them." And it was just really funny. So it's one of those things that you do where you're like, I sound like my mom. When you visit Butler, where do you like to eat? Just real quick.
The Tilly's North.
Okay.
I have to have a grilled chicken salad with ranch dressing.
The boys love Eden Park because I always have to go to Eden Park, right?
Okay.
It's changed a bit, but I will say I go to Eden Park.
That's
just it has to be on my, and then I have to go to Cummings. I'm sorry. I know there's the other coffee shop. It's very awesome, but I have to go to Cummings.
Hey, Cummings, listen, they sell chocolates there. And
oh my God. Wait, can I jump in? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm also being tangential here, sort of. So I always see the Terrys Terry, Leyland, and Molson. Like it's like see my mom, see Trisha, see the Terrys. And so I brought them chocolates from Switzerland, and then we did a chocolate taste test at Cummings, and we so like that was super fun.
Okay, can we do that?
Yes, of course. And it was really just amazing to see, of course, now they're like, oh, let me get my glasses. They're so funny. They should have their own show.
Yeah.
But anyway, so Cummings at Eaton Park to answer your question.
Okay. I was always a snack and pack pepperoni balls girl. It's changed quite a bit, but yeah. I mean, they're not good for you, but Kristen's like grilled chicken salad, and I'm like pepperoni balls. Like I'm like dough and cheese. And I love Cummings. Remember, it was the cool place to go because of it's like the cool wooden booths and like the lighting, and it's still popping. I mean, Cummings is still
great.
It is. I'm really glad for Barry and that it's still. I actually met Terry and Hank there when we were sitting down to talk, and I see her quite a bit actually. But thank you.
Yeah,
I hope
thank
that you.
I thought the questions you pulled together were really nice. I especially liked the who is the planner and who's the.
I don't know. I kind of was like, there's got to be. Usually there is that yin yang thing happening, and you both have such a good balance.
Yeah, we are very balanced.
I think your friendship is really, really special.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you both.
Bye.
Okay, bye. Shout out, Kristin, Vicky. Thank you so much for your time, your dedication to this. These two incredible women put so much thought into everything that they sent me to prepare for this episode. I'm so grateful, and I can't wait to catch up with them when they come back to the States. Thank you again, and remember, every Wednesday, new episode with me, your host, Lara. Thank you for tuning in to Alter Eagle, and be sure to click subscribe so you don't miss a single episode. Follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Alter Eagle Podcast. Until next time, stay safe, stay hopeful, stay curiously kind.